Mindtech Podcast, episode 29 for October 10th, 2013. The Silk Road to 1984. Mindtech Podcast, episode 29. I'm Gareth in LA, joined by Joe in London. Hello, Joe.
Hey, Gareth. How you doing, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. Hanging in there, you know, in this Mac world that I live in.
Yeah, feeling a lot of hate from people.
Yeah, dude. Isn't it? I'm amazed by this, dude. It just blows my fucking mind. How many people who hate Apple? It's so bizarre.
How many times do I have to explain this to you? It's not that they hate Apple. That's just a given. If you're not a Mac fag like you, then everyone hates Apple. But it's the fact that you go on about how much you love them and their product. Well, it's not that you love them. It's that you love their products.
I don't go along saying I love Apple. I've never said that.
No, you don't say. Okay, I have corrected myself there. No, it's not that you love Apple. You just love Apple products. Or you love some of Apple's products.
There you go. Now, what you just said, the last thing you just said, was very accurate.
Yeah, but you really love some of their products, right?
Well, yeah. What's wrong with
that? Not much, I suppose.
I mean, is there any products out there that you love, that you really, really love and think are awesome?
Well, I'm quite an Asus fanboy.
There you go.
Asus.
The laptop thing, right?
Yeah. My laptop, my girlfriend's laptop, and the motherboard in my desktop, and my Nexus 7 are all made by Asus.
Now, do you like them because they just make great stuff, or do you really love them?
I don't give a shit about the company. In fact, I don't really like the company because they built their netbook. They started the netbook market and they based it on Linux. Albeit shit versions of Linux. And then when the netbook market took off, they just completely abandoned Linux and started advertising it's better with Windows. And they just jumped into bed with Microsoft. Yeah. But the fact is that I personally believe that Asus, not to be confused with Acer, but Asus makes the best hardware for... well, it's the best hardware for the money. Basically.
Okay.
You can get better hardware than they make.
Right.
But it's a lot more expensive. And kind of, if you're going for a balance between affordable and decent, then they, to me, are the best bet.
Now, how are they for Linux compatibility? Because if you buy an Asus computer, I mean, the first thing you're going to do is format the drive and get that Windows shit off it, right?
Well, yeah, or at least dual boot it. Well, my laptop, no problem. My girlfriend's laptop, we've discussed before, mostly all right, but it was quite new hardware, so it was some problems with the sound card early on, but that seems to be okay, touch wood. But yeah, generally not too bad.
Let me ask you a question about the Linux compatibility on PC hardware, laptops, desktops. But I mean, obviously, if you're building your own PC, then there's no problem because you can hand pick the components, so you're 100% certain that they're going to work with whatever flavor of Linux that you decide to use. But if you buy something pre-built, like a laptop or a pre-built desktop, like if you buy a desktop from Dell or something,
yeah,
it's kind of a mixed bag, right? You're kind of playing roulette in many ways, right? Because you might get an awesome experience and everything will install and everything will work off the bat, or it might not install, or it might install and some things won't work, and you're all over the place. So how do you work that out? Like if you see a cool laptop and you're like, oh, that's a nice laptop, I like that. Will it run Linux?
Well, you have to do research. You have to try and get something that's popular enough that many people will have bought it. And then have a look at and just put the name of the laptop and Ubuntu in, for example. Because if it works with Ubuntu, then that's a pretty good bet. Because generally, hardware compatibility in Linux is in the kernel.
Yeah.
So if it works in one distribution, it will likely work in other. Maybe not Debian or other like really neckbeard freedom-y ones, but your standard distributions, it should work no problem. So yeah, that's what you have to do. Or you have to go into a shop like Curry's and stick a USB stick in
and see if it works, right?
Yeah, and boot it from that and check it out.
You can't if you go, you can't ask anyone in the store, right? Because 90% of them, probably more like 99, are clueless, right? They have no fucking idea.
Yeah, more than 99% of them, 99.999% of them will look at you like a dog that's been shown a card trick if you even mention Linux.
They have no idea.
Or maybe they'll say, "Oh, Linux, yeah, that came on those netbooks a few years ago. Yeah, that didn't sell very well."
Yeah.
That's kind of the extent of their knowledge on the subject.
Clueless. So what about these kind of boutique companies like System76 and all that stuff? Have you have any thoughts or opinions on those guys?
Generally speaking, it's overpriced. You know it's going to work 100%, and it's a small company.
Yeah.
But because they're a small company, they don't have the economies of scale that Dell, Asus,
right.
HP, etc. have. But I would never ever buy an HP laptop, even if it was a really good deal.
Why
because
not?
They're just pieces of shit.
Right.
Honestly, they're just made from the cheapest possible components that just fuck.
What about something like System76? Would you buy one of their laptops?
I would seriously consider it, but the situation is that if you got a similarly spec'd machine from Asus, Asus, whatever you want to say, the chances are it would be cheaper from Asus, even with a Windows license. Even if you're just going to completely format it and never, ever use the Windows license, you're better off paying that extra money for the Windows license and getting the discount that you get from the economies of scale, rather than...
What you're paying for with System76, though, basically, is 100% Linux compatibility. There's no headaches. There's no like searching for drivers or fooling with this and that to get this to work.
Recompiling kernels.
It's going to work immediate, right off the bat, zero issues.
Yeah, and also you're supporting a small company. So if it's a matter of ethics and if you've got a few quid to throw around, like you obviously have if you buy Macs, haha. No, but if money is less of an object than it is for me, who is super tight and I don't like. Well, I'm just the classic short arms, deep pockets. I just don't like spending.
Basically, then you're a typical Linux user. Right?
I don't know if that's not true, right? Because
I'm kidding, but I thought I'd just throw that out there.
I know, but if you look at the humble indie bundles, for example, which are bundles of mostly independent games,
right? That's where they try and sell you all that shit software that nobody's buying, right? At like a crazy cheap deal.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's games that, and often they do a name your own price, and generally, well, I think on every single one of them. They offer games for Mac, Windows, and Linux, and I think the Windows users pay the least, followed by Mac, but then usually way out in the lead. The average price that Linux users pay is much higher. So
why do you think that is, though?
Well, that could be skewed stats from a few very rich Linux users. Bumping up the average price, spending thousands of dollars to just because they can, because they're neckbeards who have really good IT jobs and no life, no wife or whatever. So it could be that, or I think that it's that Linux users are willing to spend money if there's something that's worth spending money on.
Right. Okay. So the reason I brought up the whole System76 thing, because I stumbled across their website the other day, and I was looking through at some of their offerings, and even though the specs on the machines are pretty nice, they all have 1080p screens and fast processors and all that stuff, and the specs are real, they're beefy, strong, good, solid machines. But when you look at the design of the machine, it's like flashback. It's 2004. Here's a laptop.
All right. I've never really looked at them because they're not they don't sell to the UK. You can order them, but then you've got all import tax and shit like that. So,
but I mean, the design is very old fashioned. I'm like, fuck. Do people still buy computers that big, thick, and heavy? That clunky looking?
They look all right to me.
I don't know. I mean, look at that Bonobo thing. What the fuck?
Bonobo Extreme.
You need like a fucking dolly to pull that thing around.
Yeah, that does look pretty old school.
Who's buying that? What fucking mental case is paying all that money for that fucking slab?
Well, it is a 17.3-inch screen, so that's going to sit on a desk and maybe get moved around once or twice in its life.
Oh my God! Look at that thing. It's the fuck. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that is...
We are now releasing our new high-tech range of laptops for 2002.
Yeah, but if you look at the 15.6 Gazelle Professional, that... I'm not saying it looks amazing, but it looks acceptable.
Well, I mean, if you look at the specs, right? If you go to like where it goes to, you can buy and customize or configure, and you look at the specs, the processor, and I'm like, wow, it's nice. You know, it's no slouch. It's a pretty cool machine. All the components look great. You know, like we said, it's 100% compatible with Linux. There's no driver nightmare issues. But when you look at the external of the machine, the design of the machine, it looks very old-fashioned and kind of cheap-looking.
I don't know about cheap-looking. It does look a bit old school. But what's funny, if you look at the if you go to configure, right? Yeah. And then take, for example, operating system drive. It comes with a 500 gigabyte, 5400 RPM.
Yeah.
And then to bump it up to a 750, 72 RPM is only $39, which is quite a reasonable amount more. Whereas if you try, you must have configured Macs before on their website, and that would be like $150 or something.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, no question. Especially the RAM. You know,
the RAM is just ludicrous.
Any Apple user who buys stuff directly from the Apple store will never ever buy Apple RAM. Never. Because the markup on Apple RAM is just ridiculous. So what the secret is, when you buy a MacBook or desktop or whatever from the Apple site, is the only thing you change when you customize it is maybe the processor speed. Yeah. Like you might go to like the fastest processor. Everything else you leave it exactly as is, stock, and you buy it.
But you know what annoys me about that, right? If you look at this System76, there's no actual options for the processor, but it tells you exactly what the processor is. i7 4750HQ.
Wait, you're not seeing. What are you looking at? The Gazelle Professional thing?
No, I'm looking at the.
Which one are you looking at?
The 14-inch. But anyway.
Oh, the Gallego. What the fuck they coming up with these names? What are we going to call a 14.1-inch? I don't know. The Gallego?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, right. So looking at the 15-inch one. Okay, 15.6.
Right.
You've got the various options, right?
Yeah.
For the processors. And it tells you exactly what that processor is. So you can look up the benchmarks and everything. Sure. Whereas if you try and buy a Mac, it just tells you the clock speed of it. It just says it's an i5 and it's this clock speed, or it's an i7 and it's this. Why don't they be more transparent about it and say it's a 4700MQ or whatever?
Because who cares about that, dude?
I do. I very much care about it because the difference between two i5s of a similar clock speed can be a massive difference in terms of performance.
Wait. What are you doing with your computer that requires all this checking clock speed and stuff? Are you curing cancer on that fucking thing, or are you surfing the web? What exactly are you doing?
Well, when surfing the web, that doesn't matter, or talking to you on Skype doing a silly little show. But when I'm doing audio processing on it, Pro Tools, for example, with loads of plugins, it really makes a difference. Every little bit of processing power that you can get out of the machine adds up. That's another plugin you can put on.
I don't think you need. All you need is the whether it's an i5 or an i7 and the speed of the processor. Whatever is the current Intel processor, that's what you're going to get with the Mac. They don't sell you, the second generation. Whatever's the current one, that's what you're getting.
Fair enough.
But
But so, are you considering this System 76 then?
I was interested in it. I was looking through, and I thought, oh, look at this. They do 100% Linux compatible and blah blah blah. And I thought, well, let me check them out. And I started, and I was very impressed with the specs of the machines. They're all 1080p screens, very nice, fast processors. But the look of it, dude, it's like, fuck me, come on. That's the only thing that's kind of putting me off is the look. It looks so fucking old-fashioned and clunky.
Yeah, that's the one good thing about the Asus machines, the Zeus machines. Like the one that I got from my girlfriend.
And they got
pretty much looks like a MacBook Air.
Cheesy fucking sticker on the back, System76. And someone just fucking stuck that on there just as it goes in the box.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether they're buying all these from some no-name fucking Chinese company and then slapping a System76 sticker on the back and... You know what I mean? It's like I doubt they have their own factory building this shit. They're probably importing. Oh
no, they're obviously liaising with a company in China or wherever, South Korea or something. But they are they're speccing them out so that they will definitely work 100% with Linux.
Yeah.
So how's this shutdown going then? Is that still happening?
It's awesome, dude. I hope that they never come back.
Pretty much nothing's that different, is it? Apart from you can't go and get a new driving license and stuff.
Well, nothing has changed, dude. I mean, it's like it's retarded. It's fucking stupid. It's like somebody posted on Twitter, I think the other day. Please share your terrible how the government shutdown has completely devastated your life. Tell your stories online. And it's that's ultimate in sarcasm, right? Because, it's like nothing has changed. Nothing. Just shows how badly we need these fucks.
Well, the government hasn't really shut down, has it? They've just shut a few things down. Exactly. They're still buying lots of weapons and going to war and all the rest of it.
Yeah, so. I saw some cops this morning driving around. I'm like, shouldn't you guys be at home watching TV? What the fuck are you doing out walking around the place? Yeah.
But in other devastating news, then I finally sold my Motorola Xoom.
No.
Yeah, it had to be done. I got a good price for it.
Well, you've been saying that you've been trying to get rid of it for a while, but you just mentioned the word devastating news. Were you kind of sorry to see it go?
Yeah, I didn't want to sell it. Is the bottom line. I really liked having a 10-inch tablet, a 7-inch tablet, and my phone.
You have a screen size for every occasion.
Yeah, and like I've got my girlfriend's 11-inch laptop. I've got my 15-inch laptop. We've got the 27-inch screen for the desktop. I've got a 32-inch TV that I can plug my laptop into. I've literally got a screen size. I just need a projector next.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had to be. I just couldn't justify having. Who needs 2 tablets? Who needs 1 tablet? Let's face it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like there are certain things that tablets do really well, but I mean, you can't live without a laptop or a desktop, but you can live without a tablet.
Yeah, especially if you've got a decent phone.
Yeah. You don't really, I mean, they're nice and they're cool and they're handy to have, but you don't really, it's not a need.
The only reason that I use my tablet is for when I'm at home and it's just a bigger version of my phone.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It's cool to read books on and stuff like that, though. Oh, Kindle!
Well, I don't read so good.
What you reading for? Kindle just came out with the new Kindle White, which looks very nice.
All right.
It's a very nice, crisp display for reading on. It looks very good. I have the Kindle app on my iPad, which I buy books from the Kindle app as opposed to the iBook store.
Oh yeah.
Because Kindle, you can read anywhere on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. Whereas with the iBook store, currently you can only read on your phone or your iPad. But the new OS X Mavericks is supposed to come out at the end of the month, and that will have the iBooks app built in, so you'll finally be able to read iBooks on your computer. So maybe I'll switch from Kindle to the iBooks, because I don't know what it is, but the format of the iBook, when you purchase an ebook from Apple as opposed to purchasing it from Kindle, the format, the way it's laid out and designed, It looks so much better than the Kindle. I mean, I know it's the same words, There's not like the text is the same on both, but the way it's laid out and presented is so much nicer.
But even a cheap e-reader would be easier to read than on a proper screen, because if you've got that Etch-a-Sketch style e-ink screen, it's just so much easier on your eyes than reading the screen.
Yeah, I agree. That's why it's the new Kindle, the what's it, the Kindle White or something is called Paperwhite or something like that. The display on that from just I mean, all it does is display text, but it does it beautifully. I mean, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we've got a Nook Simple Touch.
Yeah.
Which I talked about a couple of months ago. And that's all right. You don't need it to look amazing. You just need it to not hurt your eyes and be able to read books on it.
Right.
But it's funny that you mentioned Mavericks, right? Yeah. That's the new... They've just... Why are they calling it Mavericks? That's got nothing to do with big cats.
No, they run out of cats.
Fair enough. So now they call it after a meerkat, because Ubuntu 10.10, which came out a few years ago, is called Maverick Meerkat.
Oh, okay.
And it is referred to as Maverick, because you always...
No, but this is not Maverick. This is Mavericks.
Oh, yeah, they put an S on the end. That's really different.
No. The thought, because they ran out of cats, right? They're not going to call the OS cats anymore. So they're, well, what are we going to call it? So what they've done is they're the next generation of OS 10, I guess, until whenever, they're all going to be codenamed after locations in California. And Mavericks is a beach in California that's very famous for surfing.
All right.
So that's why it's called OS 10 Mavericks.
Not because they wanted to steal Ubuntu's name.
No. To be honest with you, if you asked anyone at Apple what they thought of Ubuntu, they probably wouldn't even know what it was. Ubuntu is so far off their radar, it's not even funny.
Yeah, either that or they'd laugh at you, maybe.
Yeah, it's like it's not even a pimple on their asshole. It's nothing. It's meaningless. Now, if you were to say Linux in general, then yeah, of course. But Canonical and Ubuntu, and they're like, what? Huh? What? The fuck is that? Get out of here! I got shit to do.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's why it's called Mavericks, and I think it's coming out. I think they released the date of October 22nd. Is when they'll release Mavericks. Actually, maybe we should talk about this a little bit. There's going to be some great releases. There's going to be the new iPad, iPad 5, and the new iPad Mini. The Mac Pro will be released.
Oh yeah, the dustbin thing. Yeah.
Yes, the little Dalek, the little dustbin guy. That'll be released, and OS 10 Mavericks. So it'll be all that will come out. The new iPads look really nice. The iPad Mini will finally get a Retina display, and the A7 processor, as will its big brother will get the A7 processor. And what they've done is, because a lot of this stuff leaks out, as you know, they've removed the borders from the standard iPad. So the screen size is exactly the same as the current iPad, but the borders are gone. So it looks significantly smaller than the current version. But it's not. The screen is exactly the same as the current version, but they've trimmed the borders to make it more look like the iPad Mini.
Yeah, the bezel. The
bezel. That's, yeah. So I think it's going to be pretty cool.
But the bezel's there for a reason, so that you can hold it without touching the screen.
Well, that's the whole point of a touch screen, to touch the fucking screen.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you can rest your thumbs by the side of it while you're reading without having to go, I've got to not touch the screen.
No, well, now they can sell you an Apple-approved iPad holder.
Yeah, probably.
So they can milk more money out of you. Those thieving bastards from Cupertino.
Well, they're not thieving bastards. They're just genius businessmen.
Oh, exactly. I mean, they're not. They're in business. They're there to make money. They're not making these products because they're bored on a Saturday afternoon or they got nothing to do. They're doing it to make money.
Well, they're certainly good at that.
Absolutely. So, no doubt when all that stuff is released, we'll talk about it. What do you? I mean, I know that a lot of PC people look like the Mac Pro and shake their heads in disgust. Well, what do you think of the new Mac Pro?
I'm very dubious of the cooling system that they are so proud of. I'm dubious of it until I see some reviews of it, of people who know what they're talking about, who actually put it through some tests with monitoring temperatures and really working it hard. I just don't see how that design, if it all based around a core. But the fact is that PC design, not laptops, but actual proper desktops and servers and stuff, are designed in a certain way with airflow. And anyone who's serious about gaming, who's made machines with air pressure and the debates about negative versus positive pressure and airflow and all that, there's a reason why that is the established way. And if this new way that Apple have come along with is any good, then it could be revolutionary. It could either just be shit and not work at all, or it could be revolutionary. And I'm leaning towards shit and won't work. So we'll see.
It'll work. Of course it'll work. What are you talking about? If it didn't work, why would they be releasing it? Of course not. Well, I mean, my main desktop machine right now is a Mac Mini, right?
Yeah.
And it's completely silent, has no fans, and works perfectly.
Yeah. But that's only an i5 or something, presumably, or an i3.
It's an i5.
Yeah, but these are Xeons, probably.
Yeah, these are all like crazy fast.
And there's probably a couple of Xeons in there, or 4 or something.
Right.
So it's going to use a lot of power and going to get hot, or the components are going to get hot and need a lot of cooling. So that's my only issue with it. Otherwise, it's just going to be an overly expensive desktop machine. I mean, yeah, it looks nice and everything. Well, that's debatable anyway, but you could argue that it looks nice, but who wants a nice-looking desktop machine? It's fucking under the table.
No, this will be on display, dude. This will be proudly on your desk.
Like an iMac or a laptop, it makes sense to have it look nice. But why bother having a desktop?
You're so fucking crazy, dude. What are you talking about?
Why not just be a little black box that's hidden down underneath your desk?
Stop. Have
a nice looking screen and keyboard and mouse, fair enough, because that's what you actually see. But this thing's going to be... Who's ever going to see it?
Everyone. See, the only thing I agree with you that you've said so far is that it's going to be expensive. It is going to be expensive. It's going to be way out of my range, right? I would love to have one, but there's no way I could afford one of those fucking things.
Yeah, but it goes back to that same thing you said to me about, you're worried about clock speeds and stuff. Well, when you just browse the internet, what would you actually do with it that would warrant getting such a powerful machine?
Nothing at all.
So, yeah, a Mac Mini is perfectly adequate for your needs.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's not the point, though. I mean, I would love to buy one, and if I could afford it, I would, but I can't, so I won't. So I will, because they are going to be ridiculously expensive. Going to be very, very expensive.
Is there any word on price yet, or is it still?
No, they haven't released any pricing. But my best guess is that the base model, the low end, will be close to $3,000.
Yeah,
and that's just the box.
Yeah, no screen or anything.
That's no monitors, nothing. That's just the fucking thing. But I'm sure it's going to be crazy fast.
Well, I'd rather have an iMac and install Linux on it.
Why would you? Okay, whatever. I just don't understand the mentality of that. Why you would install Linux on an iMac? It doesn't make sense. If you want to run Linux, you just buy some fucking piece of garbage PC for 300 pounds.
Well, the iMac, certainly the new ones, they're really nice looking and it sit really nicely on my desk. I'd love to have one.
Yeah,
but I'm not really that interested. I'd try and dual boot it just for the sake of it. But day to day, I'd be, I might play with OS 10 here and there, but I'd be much more inclined to run Ubuntu on it.
Ubuntu. Mm-hmm. All right, so the Xoom is gone. You're missing it. What are some of the main reasons that you're missing your Xoom, considering you already have an Nexus 7?
Because it's got really good speakers and a nice big screen that's the same resolution as the Nexus 7, but bigger. So it's kind of better to watch stuff on, watch movies and whatever.
Yeah.
iPlayer, all that sort of thing. It's nicer if you're just sitting watching something. But then again, it's a lot heavier So, no, it had to go, and I can't just hoard shit. The bottom line is I just like to hoard electronics.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking down to the left of me now, and I've got a desktop machine here that has got a P4 processor in it, a Pentium 4.
Yeah,
like,
you could just fucking throw that out, dude. No one's going to buy that shit.
I'm not saying anyone's going to buy it, but I hoard shit, put it that way. I've got old laptops. I've got ancient laptops that barely work, and I just can't bring myself to... I threw one away once that was completely fucked.
No!
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to clean it out. I mean, if you're not using it, what's the point? Get rid of it. Sell it. Throw it away. Give it away.
I know.
You know, I mean, obviously, if you're using it every day or it has some function, then hang on to it. But if not, then it's just taking up space. Get rid of it.
Well, believe it or not, I've got a friend who's got a desktop machine that is worse and older and shitter than my P4 one. And I've been meaning to take it over to him, but it's just time and whatever.
Yeah.
And going and setting it up. But I'm going to give it to him.
Tell him to come get it. I mean, hey, it's free. Come get it.
Yeah, well, he's kind of old, and he'd need me to set it up for him. And
yeah. Oh, well. So the Xoom is gone. Farewell, Xoom.
Yeah, good night, sweet prince.
Good night, sweet prince. So what you need to do now, Joe, is to sell your current Nexus 7, and then with the money you've made from selling your Xoom and the money you'll make from your current Nexus 7, you can go and buy a brand new 2013 edition Nexus 7.
That's what I'm considering doing, very seriously considering doing, because I do like the form factor, but I would like to have the 1080p screen and the faster processor and stuff.
I think it's I love the Nexus 7. I like the way. I mean, I don't own one, but from what I've seen of it online and everything, it looks like a great machine.
Well, do you want to buy my old one? I'll send it over to California.
Yeah, and it'll get lost in the mail, and then you have to send me half, and a fucking nightmare. No thanks.
And, you know, the other day, right, I was sleeping, and I'd ordered a couple of fucking shower hoses. Oh, it's a long story. We needed some shower hoses, and I'd forgotten that I'd ordered them, and I woke up, my girlfriend coming in with the post and this package, and she put it down, and I woke up and go, no way, that's not... Oh, yeah. I was like... honestly, I still live in hope that one day it will turn up. The fabled lost Nexus.
So you had like a moment of like exhilaration and then completely deflated.
I'm not even joking, right? I've had dreams where it came and I've got them side by side and I'm doing benchmarks to see whether the SSDs... And then I wake up and right now I've only got one.
That's sad.
It's very sad.
Yeah. Oh, well. Well, I think you should totally sell it, get the new one, and you'll be good. You'll have a current, fast, awesome tablet that'll last you the next couple of years. I think that's a pretty solid plan that you should seriously consider pursuing.
You should seriously consider getting an Android device of some description, a modern Android device. So that you can...
I don't know, dude.
Just not into it, are you?
No, I mean, I don't know. See, it's like Android does not float my boat. It does not make me think, oh my gosh. Getting a dedicated Linux machine is something that I might do.
But you had one and then you sold it.
The reason I sold it, to be honest with you, is I didn't like the screen.
Oh, right.
I mean, it was solid. I had a ThinkPad. It was a solid build. It was the keyboard on it was the fucking bomb. Keyboard was awesome. And it ran decent. You know, it was an older machine. It wasn't horrible. It ran pretty good. But the screen was just like, oh my God, I hated the fucking screen so much.
What was wrong with it? Not bright enough?
It just seemed like it was very, like old laptops, the screen is like, it's got like that matte finish and it's all like, you know, one side is glowing, the other side's a little dark, and it's like, it was nasty. And the resolution wasn't that great. I just wasn't into the screen. If the screen had been awesome, I'd probably still hang on to it.
Yeah.
But the screen just wasn't doing it for me. Every time I'd fire it up and I'd look at the screen, I'd want to just like fucking hit it with a hammer or something. But to have like a decent laptop that I would solely run Linux on, that's something that I've been contemplating. You know, because
But what would you do with it?
Well, just fuck around with it. You know, just try and do things that people do with computers.
But you can do that in a VM, surely.
Yeah, you can, but only to a certain degree. I mean, to have it solely installed, I think that's the way to go, right? To have it natively installed on the hardware as opposed to a virtual machine.
Don't you have any old MacBooks that you could install Linux on?
Well, no, that's not true. I do have an old iBook, but it's a PowerPC G4. That's old, just sitting there.
You can install Debian on it.
Yeah. But I mean, nothing is written in stone here. These are just thoughts that occasionally pop into my head. Whether or not I'll actually do it, I don't know. But I mean, you're right. I mean, there's no real point to doing it. It's just to do it, you know?
Yeah. You could always send me that G4 laptop and hope it doesn't get lost in the mail.
Yeah, right. One more to add to your aging collection of computers.
Yeah, my girlfriend would be really, really happy if I got that off you. Yeah.
Is she a bit of a Mac fan?
No, I'm taking the piss. She hates my collection of shit and thinks that I should not collect any more old shit.
That makes sense. I agree with her. Yeah, you should. She get rid of that crap.
I should do, but one of these days I'm going to get organised.
Oh, yes. Little taxi driver reference there, folks. All right, shall we do some news?
Yeah, go on.
Mind Tech Podcast, here is the news. Death by incompatibility. The Samsung Galaxy Gear. Yeah!
I really want one, actually. If it wasn't $300, then I'd consider getting one.
Now, this is amazing.
If it was like $50, I'd get one just to fuck about with.
Well, if it was cheap, yeah, of course. But here's the amazing thing about this Galaxy Gear wristwatch thing. This watch only exists because of one reason and one reason only. Can you guess what that reason is?
The rumor that Apple are going to make one.
Now think about that. Because of a rumor. Now, whether Apple are or are not, I mean, who knows? I have no idea. I would guess that they probably will do something, but ultimately nobody knows, right? It's a big mystery. They might or they might not. But because there's this rumor going around, every fucking imbecile in these retard fucking corporations are running around like chickens without heads, trying to come up with the wearable computing phone design nonsense.
I think there's more to it than this, than what you're saying.
Well, maybe so. But
I think that it is about this wearable with Google Glass and shit. It's all about moving towards. The thing is, they've realised, I think, these big companies, that people are not going to buy new phones all the time because, like, once you get a really good phone, the next one might come out. Like, I've got a Nexus 4 and the Nexus 5 is coming out.
Right.
And I kind of want one. But at the same time, my Nexus 4 is perfectly adequate. Yeah. And people are realizing that. Whereas if they're trying to create new markets, aren't they?
Right. But, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. But I think you're right. But I also think what I said is right also. I
think there's a bit of that.
It's a big part of the equation. I mean, it's not the entire reason why this phone exists, but it is a huge chunk of it. Right?
Yeah.
And they've come out to try and kind of beat Apple to the punch with this phone or the iWatch or whatever the fuck they're going to come out with. Now, I got to say, the commercials for this thing, the adverts that play on television over here are really fucking good.
Yeah, we haven't even said what it is that we're talking about. We're assuming that people know. The Galaxy Gear, it's a watch thing, a smartwatch.
Smartwatch, yeah. And the commercials are really good. And whenever you see them on TV, and you can't take your eyes off them. They're tremendously well put together commercials. They play all clips from old movies that show people talking into their wristwatch, right? But it's done very well. And
I don't know. I haven't seen it, being that I do not own a television.
Oh, okay. Well, they're on YouTube. You can search on YouTube, and you probably find a commercial or two on YouTube for this thing. But what's crazy is that the way it's presented in these commercials is like, man, this shit is awesome. I got to get me one of these, right? But then you pull up the reviews, the online reviews of this thing, and universally, unanimously, the reviews are saying, this is a piece of shit. It's garbage. It's crap.
Well, that's what everyone's saying, yeah. There's quite a good analogy. I think it's at the beginning of this review that we'll link to. And that's talking about how in the comments section of everything, you always get some twat going first to just get the first comment in.
Yeah.
And that's, they say that this is Samsung just saying we're first, just getting their first thing in, even though it's shit. But this new market that is opening up of this wearable shit and
right.
smartwatches, they're just saying, right, well, we were the first to do it.
So if or when Apple comes out with an iWatch, right, whether it's next year or the year after or whatever, they'll come out with a watch and it'll be awesome and they'll get it right and the industry will immediately copy them. Samsung can come out and say, we were the first. We got it out first. You guys are copying us.
Exactly. That's the whole point of it. They didn't need to make it good. They just needed to make it the first.
Well, they didn't. I mean, it's shit.
Well, yeah.
It's like wearing a fucking brick on your wrist. This big, huge fucking block of garbage strapped to your fucking wrist.
Well, this review, I read it on the train home today, and it, it says that the actual watch bit of it is all right, but the fatal flaw is that they've built the camera and the speaker into the strap, and so the strap's this big, inflexible rubber thing that you can't change, and it just doesn't sit like a proper watch. It's more like a wristband thing.
Yeah.
And but the thing is that they're not even the first smartwatch. There are some other smartwatches that you can get, but they're just the first. This is the first high-profile one.
Yeah, and it's like it links to, well, there's what's that other one? There's the Pebble. The Pebble was a Kickstarter project which came out a while ago. And but it's an ugly little thing, but functionality wise, it's supposed to be pretty good, because basically it offers a Bluetooth connection to your phone, and basically just pumps the information from your phone onto your watch. You know, so if you get a text message, you can just look at your wrist and read it, or whatever the case may be. So they in a way they beat Samsung to the punch as far as getting a smartwatch out there. But you're right. This is the first real high profile.
Yeah, and it only works with one phone, doesn't it? The Note 3.
So fucking stupid.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. But there was an article this evening about how this is on Ars Technica. Some dude managed to sideload some apps onto it, or to push some apps on using the Android developer stuff, where you can. I think it's called. I can't remember ADP. Or it's what you can use to flash ROMs onto it, and also if you can download the APK files, which are the app installer files. It's like the equivalent of an exe on Windows. You can put apps on it, and in the video he was showing that it can do quite a few things, like play what's it called, some Jules game,
Bejeweled?
No, there's a really popular game, what's it called, love? Candy Crush.
Oh yeah.
Yes, just asked. So
you can play that on it?
Yeah, but like it's impossible to play on a tiny little 1-inch screen. But also you can install MX Player on it, which is the video player. And also you have to copy the files onto it, the video files, because it hasn't got an internet connection. It can only use the app. It can't. It's not even tethered by Bluetooth or anything. It's like a specific app that only runs on the Note 3 to get internet. And so, but anyway, so he was watching Breaking Bad on this tiny little watch, which is quite awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's just going to be interesting to see how this whole wearable computing thing plays out.
Yeah, the trouble is that unless you're rich or stupid, you're not going to shell out the price of a phone for an accessory for your phone.
Right.
If it was like 50 quid.
Well, eventually, that's everything starts off as crazy expensive, and then over time will come down so, regular people can partake in this stuff. So that makes sense. A brand new product is always very expensive, and then it'll come down.
But it's going to take some serious innovation because to make a UI that is useful on a tiny little screen like that.
Yeah.
It's going to take the same innovation that brought about proper smartphones.
Right. Which
you could argue was Apple or whatever.
What are you going to argue about it for? It was.
Whatever. I watched the keynote of when Steve Jobs unveiled the first iPhone.
Oh, yeah?
Day. Yeah, I stumbled across it on YouTube. And it's quite funny. He's there swiping. Look, you press the screen and swipe along, and just stuff that we take for granted now. And he was making a big deal about it. And everyone was like,
"Oh,
yeah,
oh my god!" No one could believe. No one had seen that shit before. It was
I don't know about that. People had seen it I'd seen it before on HTC phones running Windows Phone.
Oh, please, come on.
It wasn't as smooth as that, and whatever. Anyway, we're not going to get into more of that shit.
Look at phones before the iPhone. Look at phones after the iPhone. Your Honor, I rest my case.
Well, whatever. We're looking at specs at a glance for this thing on the Ars Technica review. Screen, OS, CPU, blah, blah, blah. Other perks, it's a watch.
Yeah, it's a watch.
Yeah, it also is a watch, apart from anything else.
Yeah, it's good. I don't even know how this wearable thing will even work. I mean, you got Google Glass, you get the wristwatch. How is this even going to work? I mean, I still can't get my head around Google Glass.
I can't either. I don't until I actually check it out. I just don't really get why you would. I just don't get it. Yeah.
I mean, some of the reviews I've seen on Google Glass, the photography stuff, I think, is pretty cool. Where you can take a picture immediately from your point of view, and the quality of the photograph is pretty decent.
Yeah, and we reported on that video of someone, the first arrest captured on glass.
Right.
And yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, you can just walk around and take videos.
But who's going to want to do that? I mean, have that big dopey thing strapped to your fucking head? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there'll be a change. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, when people first started taking photographs with iPads, I remember looking at them like, what the fuck are you doing? Like you're out in some public place and some guy will pull up his iPad and start taking pictures, this big fucking slab. It looked retarded. It looked stupid. But now, what is it, 5 years later or whatever, you don't even think about it. You see someone...
Well, and think about phones. I mean, when I was little, my dad got one of the first mobile phones, and it was like a big fucking suitcase motherfucker. And now they've got big again, but at one stage they got pretty small.
Right.
So I'm sure that wearable, like Google Glass, will be very small and
it'll be a change in culture too, though, in what we perceive as normal and not. I mean, the thing with the iPad, I mean, when that first happened, probably when the iPad 2 came out with a camera, I remember seeing people like, we're out somewhere with the kids and everyone's taking photos with their phone or with regular cameras, and someone will pull out an iPad and take pictures. And I remember thinking, what are you doing? The fuck are you doing with that big thing? Now, you don't even think about it. It seems perfectly normal to do that now. So maybe the same kind of thing will happen with glass. Right now, when it first comes out, when finally it's available for everyone to purchase, and they have these things strapped to their head, you see someone walking down the street with this thing on, you're going to be like, wow, look at that guy. What's up with that? But, then you fast forward 5 years, and you don't even think about it.
Mm. But it's funny, I've been looking around the tube for the last few days. I've been on the tube at rush hour, so I've seen everything that's going on in London, pretty much. And you see Kindles, 5Ss,
right.
different colours and whatnot. But I also see iPad minis, and there was a report out this week, I think, that said that the mini is much more popular than the standard iPad.
Right. No, I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Which makes a lot more sense to me, because the main iPad's a bit cumbersome to me.
Right. Well, the rumor is, the new one, when it's going to come out, it's going to be physically the same as the current iPad mini, but it's going to have the fingerprint reader, faster processor, better camera, and it's going to have a Retina display, very high-res display.
Yeah, what Retina? What does that even mean? It just means more than 1080p, pretty much.
No, Retina means is that the individual pixels on the screen are indistinguishable by the human eye.
Right, so it's over a certain PPI then,
right.
Pixels per inch.
Yeah, so they're so dense and such a high resolution that you cannot see the individual pixels of the screen. It's impossible.
Yeah, but I can't see that on my Nexus 4, and that's only 720p.
Put your bloody glasses on.
Too much wanking when I was a teenager. A bit blind.
But yeah, I think on a phone, if you have a phone, just a standard phone, like maybe a 4-inch screen phone, and it's a 1080p display, that's Retina, because the screen is so small and the resolution is so high that you cannot distinguish individual pixels. So that's Retina.
I can't tell. I'm looking at text on it, and I can't see pixels.
Right.
Maybe if I use my imagination, I might just about be able to.
But that's what, when they say it's a Retina display, that's what they mean, is that
it's just marketing bullshit, basically.
Well, yeah, in a way it is. I mean, it's both. It's marketing bullshit, but it's also true. Right, but it is Retina. They could just say it's whatever the resolution is, but they say Retina because the human eye cannot distinguish pixels at that resolution. So yeah, you're right. It is marketing, but it's also true. So
yeah, well, anyway, fuck smartwatches. Who cares about them? Let's talk about underpowered Linux credit card sized machines for a bit, shall we? Raspberry Pi celebrates 1 million boards made in the UK.
Oh yeah, Raspberry Pi, made in Britain. By British innovation.
I was talking about this yesterday, right?
Do you snicker when you hear people say that, when you get some retard fucking puppet head politician saying that bullshit?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was talking about it yesterday, right? That made in Britain used to be this mark of quality, and right, it's made in Britain, that's good. Whereas now, if I hear that something's made in Britain, I'm not interested. It's obviously shit. I'd rather have something made in China where you know it's made to a good standard. It's like in Back to the Future, made in Korea. No wonder it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's crazy how perception has changed, you know. I know here in the United States that we've gone through that for a while, whereas, it used to be made in America. What the fuck? That's garbage. But now it's kind of coming back. It's kind of a badge of pride now if it's made in America. It's because so much of industry has been shipped out overseas so that these piece of shit companies can make more profit, Well, if I hire an American to do this job, I got to pay him $15 an hour. If I hire some fucking retard in China, I can pay him 50 cents an hour. Think of how much more profits I can make, right? And that's the mentality.
Up, isn't it? That we live in a world where it's cheaper to make stuff thousands of miles away and then ship it over.
Sure, yeah.
Than to just make it here,
right? Because it's you make instead of making this year. Instead of making my standard $1 billion profit, I've made $10 billion by shipping the workforce overseas.
Mm. So they've sold 1 million they've made 1 million in the UK, but they've also made 750,000 outside of the UK. So that's 1.75 million now that they've sold, which is pretty good going. But it's quite telling in this article. Eben Upton, the main dude there, said that many Pi boards given to kids end up stuck in a drawer.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Shit! Speaking of stuck in a drawer given to kids, I left out a key part of the story about my Motorola Xoom.
What?
The dude who I sold it to said, "Yeah, why do you think he bought it for me? He bought it off me
it's kids
because it was." it's his kid's birthday today.
Right.
And he bought it off me yesterday. And I was just picturing what you said, like, hey, I got you a tablet. And then he opens it and it's like, oh, great.
Oh, thanks, Dad. This is just what I wanted.
Apparently he'd actually been talking to him about it, and he wanted something new, but he could have got something new for a similar price, but it would have been a piece of shit. Like, the cheap, shitty Android tablets. At least the Xoom is a good tablet.
So what do you want for your birthday, son? You can have any tablet you want, anything at all. You can either have this brand new iPad or you can have the second-hand Xoom. What do you want, son? Anything you want.
Yeah, but not everyone's got the money for that. The kind of budget we're talking about is like a third of the price of an iPad.
Oh, absolutely. So. I know this the reality of the situation. I'm just making fun of it. Of course, the kid will probably be happy to get a tablet. Of course, but still, we'd rather have an iPad.
Well, yeah. Well, I'd rather live in Southern California where it's sunny every day.
Sunny every day. It's not sunny today, by the way.
Really?
No, it's overcast.
Weirdly, it's yesterday I walked home in a T-shirt. It's fucking October in London. It was like 6 o'clock at night. It was getting dark. And I was there in a T-shirt going, yes, sweet.
Nice, yeah. Is that kind of unheard of?
Not unheard of, but
rare. It's rare. It's unusual, yeah.
Yeah, but then it was cold again today, so anyway. But yeah, so back to the Raspberry Pi then. I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit before, and we did a show about it and stuff. It's quite an achievement, though. It's certainly an achievement of marketing, and the thing is, it's a foundation as well. It's not even a profit-making company.
Yeah. But I think we talked about this in a previous show. It's only been in like maybe the last year or two that the Raspberry Pi has kind of started to bleed into the consciousness of people over here. Whereas I think in the UK it's been around for a while, right?
I don't think it's been that long.
Really?
It was released in February last year.
Really? I thought it was older than that.
End of February last year, in fact.
Yeah.
No, it's been a while in internet time, but not in real life time.
Maybe so. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember hearing about it, thinking, "What's that? A Raspberry Pi? What is that?" Where in the UK, it was like everyone was all into it. And over here, I'm like, well, I don't understand. What is it? Like a little circuit board? What's the deal? Whereas now, everyone's more aware of it. People are buying them and building stuff and doing things with it. And it's become pretty popular for hobbyists, at least. For people.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be aimed at kids, and it's really just neckbeards who've bought them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this Google Coder thing that I talked about briefly last week.
Yeah.
I think that sounds pretty cool for it. So.
Yeah, very good. So 1 million boards made in the UK.
Yeah.
Made in Britain with British ingenuity.
Well, speaking of made in Britain and the new British FBI and the American FBI.
Yeah.
Excellent segue there.
Excellent.
Silk Road's been shut down, eh?
Yeah, this is kind of crazy, dude.
Silk Road, for those who don't know, was a deep web, as people call it, site that you could only access through Tor.
Well, here's the thing that gets me, though, man.
And it was the eBay for drugs, anyway.
Yeah, and all shady, nefarious stuff. Was that all these like dark web, deep web, hidden. The fact that we even know Silk Road exists is a red flag off the fucking bat immediately. Do you know what I mean? The fact that the likes of you and me are sitting here yapping about the fucking Silk Road tells you straight away that something is wrong.
Yeah. Well, they didn't. It's like anything. If it gets popular enough, it's going to go overground. I'm sure there's loads of other Silk Road style sites where people trade drugs and guns and fuck knows what else. Well, but they're small enough. They're probably 30 or 40 people in the community, and that's it. And it's locked down. Whereas Silk Road got too big, and that's why they got busted.
Well, exactly right. Yeah, because I was reading about this guy, the Dread Pirate Roberts, Robert William Ulbricht. He technically and security wise, the guy was on the ball. Right, technology-wise, as far as his security and the way he ran it and all that stuff, it could not be faulted. What fucked him up was people.
Well, no, what fucked him up was that although towards the end or shortly after he got it up and running, he got quite tech savvy and stuff. What brought it down was that before he gained that knowledge, he went posting on forums asking for help to set this thing up, using his real Gmail address and stuff.
Yeah.
And it all tied. There was just, he only made a couple of slip ups, and that was enough to tie them back to him. Or that's the official story anyway. And also that he, someone double crossed him, so he ordered a hit on the. It sounds a bit fucking far-fetched to me.
I want him taken out. I don't care.
Yeah. And instead of like actually meeting up with someone, he decided that he would trust someone on the internet to be the hitman, and that hitman turned out to be some government type,
a 12-year-old girl. But no, it's and now we're hearing stories that they're going after and arresting people who used the Silk Road. That is not necessarily true. People who were used Silk Road to sell stuff. Yeah. I'm sure people who bought weed off it are safe. You know, they're not going to get busted for buying a bit of weed or even meth or heroin or anything. It was the sellers who they're after. Yeah.
But yeah, like the NCA, and I was like, what's that? And then I realized, the National Crime Agency, which is the new UK FBI style organization that's only existed for a couple of days, and already they're fucking arresting people and putting out press statements.
Yeah, that's right. I heard about this. So the UK is getting its own like version of the FBI.
We're not getting. We fucking got them.
So how does that work, dude? Like they have like a press release. Oh yeah, excuse me, chaps. Yes, we're thinking about forming a little organization called the NCA, which will be modeled after the Americans' FBI. And then 3 seconds later, it's up, running, ready to fucking go.
Well, yeah, basically. Well, obviously they'd been planning it for a long time, and they must have got some police, and apparently you, if you've got special skills, you can volunteer to be part of them. So if you're a computer expert or an expert in whatever, you can volunteer to help them out to fight for your country.
Jesus Christ, so fucking crazy, man.
But this press release is pretty. Well, it's obviously not funny unless you've got a very sick sense of humor like me, but. What's funny about it, right, are things like, it says in it, these arrests send a clear message to criminals. The hidden internet isn't hidden, and your anonymous activity isn't anonymous. We know where you are and what you're doing, and we will catch you.
Oh, God.
No. But, like, the whole thing, right?
You know what someone should do now? They should send that, whoever wrote that, they should send him an email back saying, ditto, motherfucker. Here's a picture of you with that prostitute last night. Boom!
But whoever wrote this, right, is obviously just someone sitting in an office somewhere, and their job is to write this. And I can't help but think that they're a bit of a Winston Smith character.
Ah, like, right. Okay.
Like Winston Smith is there in 1984, changing the news to fit the party agenda, being a revisionist. Basically, that's his job, isn't it?
Yeah.
And whoever wrote this must be there, being told what to do and typing it out. And they're probably thinking, "Shit, man, I'm like part of this system," and they're probably having the same thoughts that he did. And that they probably hate this whole thing, and they're probably listening to Mindset and all the rest of it. But this is their job, and they've got no choice. They've got to feed their family somehow.
Well, a lot of people are in positions like that who are working in companies that ethically and morally they're not into it, but you know they got fucking mouths to feed.
Yeah, exactly, man. They've got to put food on the table.
So they're kind of trapped, you know. Hence, people like Snowden, you know. That was his job, right? The guy's making, $150,000 a year. He's living a good life, but he's going to work every day, and in the back of his mind, he's thinking, this ain't right. This shit shouldn't be happening. Something is wrong here, you know. And I guess over time, there's going to be a certain straw that will break that camel's back, you know. And they might say something or not. I mean, most people don't give a fuck. They'll be like, whatever, it's a paycheck. I don't give a shit. You know.
Yeah. So do you think there's more to this Silk Road story than meets the eye then? Or is it just quite logical that they got away with it for a while, and the bottom line is they weren't going to get away with it forever, and now they've been busted?
Well, the fact that we even know about the Silk Road and Darknet and all this stuff is not. It's kind of, it defeats the purpose. If there are these secret networks that are super encrypted and hidden away, we should have no knowledge of them whatsoever. Right? The fact that they become publicly aware, it's just inviting problems. But I think you are right. I mean, that Winston Smith writing that little thing there, these arrests send a clear message to criminals. And in a way it is. It really is painting a picture that if you're thinking in your mind, well, maybe I should do, it's letting you know, no, we will see you. We will find you. We will catch you. Don't fucking do it.
Well, yeah, it's and they've got to me, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but they've got to me. I would never do anything shady on the internet, man. If you want to do something shady, meet up with someone in a car park and do it. Don't fucking do it on the internet, because they are watching. And who knows, are they really watching? You've got to assume that they are. And maybe they've won, but they're not, whatever.
That's the thing, though. It's like they're harvesting everything, right? But they're not watching everything. They don't have the money or the manpower to do that. It's all software driven. I mean, if you do certain things to raise a red flag and you become a target, then yeah, absolutely, they're going to be all over you like a rash, right? They're going to dig through your past, do the whole fucking works. But if you stay under the radar and you never raise those red flags, they're not going to give a fuck. They could care less. You can do whatever you want, and no one's going to be the wiser.
Yeah, well, apart from anything else, this is all just the war on drugs, which is obviously bullshit anyway. Yeah.
Now it's just the war on.
I read something about how this has just made the world that slightly bit more dangerous. If people want to buy drugs and put whatever they want in their body, then that's their fucking problem.
Exactly.
And if they're doing it on the internet, then great, because it's all. If they just, there should be a legal eBay for drugs. If I want to buy some weed or some cocaine or whatever, I should be able to just go and buy it and not have to go and meet some shady fucking bastard who's probably got a knife and whatever.
Yeah, I agree. It's a goof. It's nonsense. It's no one's concern what you do with your body. If you want to, all the money that they're spending on this drug prevention, if they just invested that into education, and said, to kids, look, if you do X, Y, and Z drug over a period of time, this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, like if you do loads of weed, you're going to be fucking boring as shit. And no one's going to like you, and they're going to be really annoyed by you. Yeah. If you do loads of cocaine, you're going to be an arrogant fuck who just never listens to anyone, and everyone hates you. Basically, if you do drugs, people are going to hate you.
Right, but ultimately, when that child is then 18 or 21 or wherever, and they know all this stuff, and they still want to take drugs, then by all means, go right ahead.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to put some arbitrary age limit on it, and 18 seems reasonable to me.
Well, yeah, like I've said many times, the only human being that should be censored or watched over are children.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Yeah, but then that should be done with parents, right? Children should be censored. Children should be restricted. Children and all. But once you become legally an adult, all bets are off. You can do whatever the fuck you want, provided, of course, whatever you do doesn't negatively impact anyone else.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, we got a couple more news stories, but before we get into that, let's take a real quick break. We'll be right back.
Parrot Talk, an intimate discussion on all things strange. This is a show where more questions are raised than answers are given. and things sometimes really do go bump in the night. Hosted by Reeves Cook and Gareth Davies. You can listen to Parrot Talk at mindsetcentral.com.
You're listening to the Mindset Network.
You can now hear all of the Mindset Central podcast while on the go with the Stitcher Smart Radio app. On-demand news, talk, and more on your mobile phone. The latest episodes at Mindset Central are always available for you. No syncing needed and no memory or storage wasted. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android phones, and beyond. Downloading is easy. Go to Stitcher.com or check out your app store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to MindsetCentral.com.
And we're back. All right, Joe, when we just left, we were just talking about how the Silk Road and all that fun stuff has been exposed, and arrests are being made as we speak. People being dragged out of their beds in the middle of the night and carted off to police stations, concentration camps, and who knows where in this fun-loving world of ours that absolutely is not totalitarian in any way whatsoever. Looks like the NSA has been up to some stuff, too. Man.
Yeah. You know what's funny, right? Every time there's an NSA revelation, it's just not a revelation at all. It's just so blindingly obvious that they have done this, and it's just some actual proof.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's something that we've always suspected and or internally known for a long time, but this is actually coming out and publicly saying, okay, you guys don't need to speculate about this any longer. It's true.
Yeah, and this latest one is that they use zero-day... they save zero-day exploits for high-value targets. And the long and the short of the article is that they use some sort of shitty zero days on some people who are noobs. And the better you are at computers, the more hardcore the tactics they use to find out stuff that they want to find out.
Yeah. It ties in really what we were just talking about with the Silk Road, as far as that you crossing a line or throwing up a red flag, getting onto their radar. I mean, we don't really know what constitutes somebody getting in their view, so to speak. So they'll focus on you. I mean, we can speculate and come up with some pretty good ideas of what will possibly get them. Like if you're sending encrypted email every Thursday at 2:00 to Abu whoever the fuck in the Middle East, that might raise a little red flag or something. Things like that. We can speculate, but there might be a whole range of different things that kind of make them think, oh, let's take a look at this guy.
Well, I think one of the main things that they're worried about, they don't give a shit about terrorism.
They love terrorism. Terrorism validates their existence.
It's good business, isn't it, for them?
They love it.
Whereas they're more worried about people who are trying to subvert the status quo,
right?
Like some of your anarchist friends, for example.
Right. I would agree with that. I think terrorism overall is nonsense. I don't think there are any real terrorists, at least the way they're presented in the media. And ultimately, the NSA and the government at large, they love that shit. I mean, if terrorism was to go away tomorrow, they'd be like, okay, what do we do? I mean, what the fuck?
They'd have to get a real job, wouldn't they?
Right. It's like, what are we going to do? We're going to still spend money on all this military shit when we got no one to fight? Who's the next bad guy? We got to have someone we got to fight. Otherwise, what's the point of our existence? But yeah, I think you're right. I think people who are thinking people, not part of the herd, people who are like, well, wait a second. Why is this? Why are you doing that? Let's push the boundaries a little bit here. Let's question. Let's see what's going on. Though those might be people who might be surveilled and dug into to find out, what makes this person tick. If this person does get a following and does get to a point where they could start harming us, what do they have in their background that we can pull up and say, "Hey, pal, calm the fuck down," that kind of stuff.
Well, you want to be careful who you associate with. I know that you've been on anarchist shows and you have anarchists on your shows.
Right, but you can't think that way though. Once you start thinking that way, then you're playing their game. They want you They want you to think that way. They want you to stop doing stuff,
Yeah, no, I'm only joking. I mean,
no, I know, but still, it's a valid point though, because a lot of people, that's it, fuck that, I'm not doing. No, that's what they want. As long as you're not hurting or harming anyone, what's the problem? What's the fucking problem? If you have a thought or an opinion and you verbalize it, and that thought or opinion is not going to hurt anyone, what's the problem? I don't get it.
Thought crime, man.
That's just what it is. It's fucking thought crime.
I haven't even read 1984 for ages, but it's just in my mind lately.
It's a great book.
More and more.
It's been maybe 4 or 5 years since I read it last. I should read it again. It is definitely one of those books you can read multiple times.
I feel it's got a bit of a disappointing ending personally, but it's the build-up's good.
It's great. Great book. Great book. Terrifying though. Terrifying book.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when George Bush was pres, and there was a buddy of mine. He used to have a sticker on the back of his car that said "Worst President Ever," and the "ever" was like in huge, big capital letters. Worst president ever. When he was, because he wasn't a big supporter of Mr. Bush. But I noticed that there was a lot of times in bookstores, activists would go into bookstores and they'd go to the fiction section and they'd collect up all of the George Orwell 1984 books and they'd move them all from the fiction section and put them all in current affairs. In the bookstore. They just move them all to the current affairs section. That was pretty neat, But yeah, so there you go. NSA up to their shenanigans, monitoring everyone. What else we got?
So this is just funny, even to me as someone who is not a big fan of Apple or iOS or iPhones or anything. It's just funny to me. I don't know why it's so funny.
Why you laugh?
Why you laugh?
Why you laugh?
Eric Schmidt, anyway, who is executive chairman of Google. I don't know, one of the founders, isn't he?
He's up top. He's high on the pyramid.
Yeah. Says that Android is more secure than iOS. Now, it's funny to me, not because iOS is massively more secure, but there's no way. There's just no way that Android is more secure.
It's impossible.
They might be equally insecure.
It's because Android is a far more open platform, therefore more insecure.
Well, yeah. I mean, inherently, maybe they're of equal security. But the fact that all you have to do is untick a box or tick a box to use unsecure sources or whatever, or use untrusted, whatever, to load anything that you want, install anything you want on the device, means that it is less secure. I think that's a good thing, and that you have the choice of that is good, and we've talked about that many times. Sure. But it's just a ridiculous, ludicrous idea that it's more secure.
Now, if you say Android is more freer than iOS, or
more popular than maybe, right?
More popular? I don't know. Well, that's debatable. I mean,
well, no, it's in terms of sheer numbers of installed. Just the install base, the number of devices running Android.
Right. So
is
that would be accurate. If you were to say Android has a larger install base than iOS, that would be accurate. I don't know about more popular, though.
Well, popular is a subjective term, isn't it?
Yeah.
But objectively, it is. There are more installs.
Right. If they were saying that it's more flexible, you can do more stuff with it. You can, it's freer. You can control far more of Android than you can with iOS. All of that is true, but it being more secure, that's fucking nonsense. There's no way it's more secure than iOS. No way. And in fact, when he announced this at this conference, the audience just openly laughed in his fucking face.
Well, I would have laughed. I did laugh. I am laughing. It's ridiculous. A preposterous idea.
So why would he say that?
Well,
Is he like completely out of touch? He has no fucking idea about the operating system that his company created and sells? Or is he just a fucking imbecile? I mean, what's the story here? Why would you say that?
Well, he probably doesn't even know how much a loaf of bread costs.
Well, that's probably true.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that David Cameron. No, let's not even mention him anyway.
No, I haven't heard this.
I don't know the full story because I don't watch TV and whatever. But apparently,
you don't own a TV, huh?
No, I don't even own television. They asked him how much a loaf of bread costs, and he had no idea. He was because he lives in was it Cameron or was it one of the other? Anyway, some fucking Tory didn't know that. But yeah, like I'm sure that the high ups at Google,
of course,
you're talking about billionaires here.
Yeah,
just
that makes sense.
don't have a clue about anything.
Why would you need to know that? There's no way you're gonna no need to know that.
Yeah. But like, as for the security, obviously you're going to always try and toe the party line, try and big up your thing. Like Samsung executives would say that they've never copied Apple ever.
Right, but here's the thing, though, Joe, is like we've just mentioned right now in the last 5 minutes, several reasons or several items that he could have said, which would have been very positive and very accurate in a description of Android compared to iOS, right?
Yeah.
And all of it would have been true. It all would have been, it's more flexible, it's more open, you have more freedom, all that stuff. Totally true.
Well, it's not like he just said this randomly. Someone said that it's not, that Android is not secure. And so he was on the defensive, to be fair. He was saying,
I see.
not secure, it's more secure than iPhone, which is obviously bullshit. But yeah, if you're attacked, then you're going to start saying, oh, well, it is more secure. But he should have been clever about it and said, well, yes, it is potentially less secure because it's so much freer.
Yeah, you turn a negative into a positive. You put that positive spin at the end. Or you could have just said, well, that's not true. Android is a very secure mobile operating system and just left it at that.
Yeah.
Instead of pointing a finger at iOS or whatever. That would have been more accurate, right? Because, I mean, it's not that Android isn't secure. There's a lot of security functionality in it. But because it is so open and so free, there's a lot of room for shady bullshit to go on. Whereas on the iOS side, because it's so locked down, it's unlikely that stuff would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, all right, that kind of wraps it up for this week's news. All right, Joe, what kind of feedback we got pumping into the MindTech podcast this week?
Well, apart from a bit of hate mail and someone who... It was a private conversation, so I won't say too much about it.
Just paraphrase.
To paraphrase,
and not name names.
We worship Apple and Google.
What?
But he likes the rants.
The rants are good.
There's not been so much ranting. I'm a bit too mellow today for too much ranting.
Next week, we'll promise a rant next week.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to be clear about it, Gareth worships Apple and hates Google, whereas I just hate everything apart from free software and Linux.
I don't hate Google and I don't worship Apple. I don't. I mean, I got a little shrine right next to my computer with a little Steve Jobs figure.
Your fucking house is a shrine to Apple with all the... How many Apple devices actively being used are there in your house? Go.
Okay, I have 2 Apple TVs, 2 Mac Minis. One set up as a server, one set up as a desktop. I have a MacBook Pro 15-inch i7 processor. I have a MacBook Air, an old G4 iBook, 2 iPhone 5s, and an iPhone 4S.
That's 10 Apple devices.
Is that really?
Yes.
Oh, wait, no, I forgot. Well, there's more. There's also 2 iPads full-size and 1 iPad mini.
Jesus fuck, man. That's 13.
Yeah, that's what I have. No PCs allowed in the Davies household whatsoever.
Well, no, you do have PCs. You have many personal computers. Some of them are made by Apple.
All of them.
Yes, they're all made by Apple.
Right. But I
have a personal computer made by Asus running Linux.
That's the ecosystem that I've bought into.
Yeah. Well, as I said on Mintcast this week, they've got you hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, no, I would agree. But you know what really started me thinking? I think it was either this week or last week. There was the news were talking that Apple is currently the most valuable company in the world. Like they beat like ExxonMobil and the most. Really?
What, they beat like arms companies and banks?
Well, it's the most public company, because it used to be like Mobil, Exxon. The oil companies were like the big top, but now Apple has surpassed them as being the biggest, most profitable company on earth.
Well, say what you like about Apple, they sure are good at making money.
Yeah, absolutely. But let me just give you my thought. When I heard that, I was like, oh, fuck. I think it might be time to switch.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Just throw them all in the trash and buy new.
That's crazy. But the only reason I say that is because Apple has always been like the underdog, right? I mean, throughout the 90s and most of the 2000s, it was always like Macs were like maybe 2 or 3% of
what the fuck is the 2000s? You mean the noughties?
the whatever it was.
Get with it, man. You're just not hip and cool like me. You're not down with the kids.
The noughties.
Yeah, the noughties.
You've been naughty. It was always like the underdog, the 2 or 3% users. There's like this big mammoth behemoth of Microsoft that was like 98% of the computers. So running a Mac in those days was like, you're giving it to the man. You're like, fuck you. I'm using this independent. But now kind of the tables have turned.
No, it's not in the desktop space, but because it's pretty much there's one reason: the iPhone.
The iPhone, yeah, true.
And by extension, the iPad.
Right.
And that's what's changed it. Not iTunes as well, and the iPod, the iPhone, iTunes, and the iPad. So I mean, the Macs are still not doing any better than they ever were.
No, there has been a kind of halo effect. I mean, Macs are outselling Dell. I mean,
a little bit, but it's still, who even buys fucking desktops and laptops these days? No one.
Tons of people. I mean, back in the noughties, in the early noughties, I mean, Dell was so huge and so profitable. He offered to buy Apple, and when they turned him down, he said they should just sell the stock back to the shareholders and close up. And now he's fucking eating those words, right? Because the exact opposite. Now he's the one selling all his fucking shares back to the shareholders, and they're barely fucking making it. So it's like, because things have flipped so much, it really, because no one wants to be part of the majority. I mean, I would love Android to just kick the shit out of iOS, just really rip them a new one, so that like everyone is buying fucking this Android stuff and nobody's buying iOS, because then I could just stick with my iPhone.
Well, I'll tell you what, right? I do a mental survey of whenever I go out on the tube and I see what's going on in London, and the journey that I've been doing is goes across London. It goes through the centre from one side to the other, so I get quite a good impression of what's going on.
Right.
And you see a lot of iPhones, but an awful lot of Android devices as well.
Right.
And I would say it's about 50-50 right now in London.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably the same over. Well, I don't know. I see an awful lot of iPhones, but then again, I see a lot of Android things too. I rarely see a Windows phone. It's extremely rare.
Oh yeah, never. I mean, I see some young people with Blackberries, but otherwise, it's pretty much 50-50, and it's most of the Android stuff is Samsung, obviously. And I saw an HTC today. And you see the odd Nexus 4 and you think, hey, he's a pretty cool guy.
Maybe I should get his number.
I saw a group of, a group of chaps, shall we say.
Yes.
And they, one of them had a Note 2, I think, in a cool teddy bear case. And yeah, you see it all basically, but I think it is pretty much 50-50 right now in London. I don't know. I can't speak for any other city.
It's
or
not
part
50-50 though, because there's so many manufacturers of Android phones, whereas Apple only makes Apple iPhones. So if you look at it that way, it's not 50-50. If you know what I mean, like there's a million manufacturers that make Android phones, right?
Well, you can prove anything with facts, can't you?
I guess so, but I
know what you mean. Like it depends which way you look at it, but in terms of iOS versus Android, I think it's about 50-50. Yeah. Anyway, we've talked about this every week for nearly 30 weeks.
I want Android to win though. I want Android to be
worldwide. It is winning
to totally kick the living shit out of Apple and bring it down to a secondary status again, like it was in the good old days.
Well, we'll see. Anyway, more feedback there.
All right, let's go.
Andy Jesse on Google Plus said, and this was about last week, I think. In this episode, I think you asked the question: how much of GNU/Linux is GNU? And how much is Linux? Well, here's RMS's take on it. And he obviously just lives in a bit of a dream world. He reckons that GNU is about 15% of GNU/Linux. And Linux is about 1.5%. And he says that, although GNU is only a slight part of it, Linux is much less, an order of magnitude less. He said that, but at the system's core, the system is made by combining the two. Thus, the name GNU/Linux remains appropriate. So, I take his point, but it still doesn't really answer my question.
It's interesting though. A lot of distributions, like the ones that are very, very purely free software driven, they'll always call themselves, a GNU/Linux distribution.
Yeah, Debian GNU/Linux.
Right. Whereas the other ones, they don't give a rat's ass. Just like, hey, we're Linux.
Well, yeah. Well, except Ubuntu, who don't even mention Linux anymore.
Oh, really?
They even at one stage said the Ubuntu kernel.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like, that pissed a lot of people off. And go to ubuntu.com now and see if it says anything about Linux. I haven't looked for ages.
Ubuntu.
You can hear Furious type in here.
.com.
What is Ubuntu? Ubuntu is the world's favorite free operating system. No mention of Linux. You won't see Linux.
Where are you seeing that? When you
scroll down a bit. What is Ubuntu?
I'm on ubuntu.com.
Yeah.
Where is it? Build a cloud. I don't see that. What is Ubuntu?
Hang on.
Overview. Design for business. Cloud, server, desktop.
Yeah, scroll down.
All right.
Underneath build a cloud with Ubuntu. Ubuntu phone and tablet. What is Ubuntu? Fast and free. And then even if you go to desktop, meet Ubuntu. Operating system. There's no mention of Linux at all. Features. Your Ubuntu, your way.
I wonder why they do that. They're just trying to make it its own thing, huh?
Yeah. They're trying to be
Apple.
they're just trying to. It's like Apple. Do they ever say BSD? Of course not.
No, actually they do. If you go, I don't know if I can find it.
Yeah, but if you like really dig through, you'll find Linux on here. But they're never upfront about it, are they? They say it's the beautiful Apple operating system.
Right, it's just OS 10. But if you go to like the technical specs of OS 10 and dig through, it'll show you the BSD.
Well, I'm sure that somewhere on this Ubuntu site you can find it.
It's not going to be in your face. You have to look for it, but it is there.
Yeah, so compare that with I think it's probably Debian.org.
Yeah, let's see Debian.
Debian is a free operating system. It doesn't actually say.
Debian.org. Let's see. Getting Debian support. About Debian. What is Debian anyway? Operating system. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Debian systems use the Linux kernel use the Linux kernel or the FreeBSD kernel.
Yeah, there is a FreeBSD version of it, and obviously there's a herd version of it.
Linux is started with Linus Torvalds. That was the program worldwide.
Yeah, exactly. They're really up front about it, and they talk about the GNU project, they talk about Linus Torvalds, they talk about the whole thing. So yeah, that is the big difference in it.
Is Debian more pure, like more pure deal, or why is everyone so got hard-ons for Debian?
Right. Ubuntu is based on Debian, and what Debian is, they strive to be free software only and no proprietary binary blobs, whereas Ubuntu will just chuck in loads of proprietary shit to make it work properly.
Right.
Like network cards and whatever. And if you've got, say, an NVIDIA graphics card in your machine, when you first you install it and you first boot it up, or say, hey, do you want to install the proprietary drivers? It'll make 3D work and stuff. Whereas Debian, you can't even. You can do it, obviously.
But you got to go to the site and download the driver and install it. They're not going to do it for you.
I think you even have to compile a new kernel and shit.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
It's been a while since I try to do anything proprietary on Debian. But yeah, Debian is. Well, even most laptops, the wireless card needs some non-free firmware. Yeah. Which is included in Ubuntu, but not in Debian.
Right.
So yeah, that's different. But anyway, Andy Jesse continues on Google Plus. Sorry for spamming because he posted another post. But looking into it, the following graph may be more useful than the GNU answer, and it's some graphs that I looked at briefly, and it kind of shows you what's made up of it, and there's quite a lot of GNU stuff in there, like GCC and glibc and whatever. So I don't know. I'm not really any clearer on the point of how much of it is GNU and how much is Linux, because it's like the house analogy. The foundations of a house seemingly aren't very important. You don't see them, and a house can. If you look at a house, you see the house, but without the foundations, the thing would fall down.
Right.
And even though most of the building materials and most of the time that goes into it is building the actual house, the bricks and the wood and, well, the cardboard if you live in America, but without the foundations, the thing would fall down. And that's kind of how I see it, is that the kernel is the foundation and the rest of it is the house.
So it is, when someone just calls it Linux, that is kind of accurate in many, many respects, right?
Well, kind of. But then again, you wouldn't call Android Linux, and that's got a Linux kernel. I saw an article about some dude trying to argue that we should just call it GNU for desktop, what we would call desktop Linux, like Ubuntu or whatever, should just be called GNU, because you don't call Android Android/Linux. Or by extension Linux, do you? It's just Android, and you don't call Mac OS X BSD, even though that's pretty much got a BSD kernel, and you don't call Windows 8 NT, even though that's got an NT kernel.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It's all semantics.
I think
it's popular usage. People know if you say Linux, that means desktop GNU/Linux.
Yeah, it's just the whole. If everyone started just saying GNU/Linux or GNU Linux, it would just become part of the way people talked, and you wouldn't think anything of it. It's just that most people are so used to just saying Linux, then that's what it is.
Yeah, and also GNU is a stupid backronym that's hard to say.
God, it's
so that doesn't help.
I saw him on some interview on YouTube where he seemed so proud that it was GNU. It's a recursive anagram, or what do you say? A recursive
acronym for GNU
is not Unix, and you could see like the pride in his face. And the interviewer must have been thinking, "The fuck is wrong with this guy?"
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's like I always say about him, you can't have that level of genius that he has without lacking in some other areas. And that's one of the areas where
GNU stands for GNU's not Unix. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, crazy.
Well, it's like the whole jocks thing. The guys who are the best at socializing and the best at getting chicks or whatever are dumb as shit when it comes to maths and stuff.
Right. Yeah,
so
I mean,
if you're going to be good at something, you're going to be shit at something else.
Well, it's a stereotype, right? I mean, yeah, of course, most people are like that. It's like finding the hot smart the hot smart chick, right? Absolutely, they're out there, but they're kind of in the minority because hot chicks don't need to be smart.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, I mean, they do exist, of course, but most hot chicks you meet are going to be dumber than shit.
Well, they're certainly going to act that way, yeah.
Right, exactly, yes. I mean, they might not be. They might be fucking genius IQs, but they're going to come off like they're a mental case.
Yeah, which is why you've got to try and find a woman who's beautiful but doesn't know it.
All right, guys. Well, we've kind of come to the end of this week's Mind Tech podcast. Another great show, some great conversations, some great news, some great topics. And we'll be back next week. But before we do, let's see how everyone can reach us through the internets. Where can they find us, Joe?
MindsetCentral.com. You can contact us at mindsetcentral@gmail.com, or there's a BitMessage address on the site. Or there's the links to the Facebook and Google Plus groups. Or you can follow me, Joe Ressington, on Twitter. Your Mindset
on Twitter. Give us some feedback, guys. Let us know what you think, good or bad. It's all fine. I know that I go on sometimes about my Apple stuff, but you can talk shit about me. That's cool.
Yeah, send us some hate mail.
Some hate mail. Hate mail is good. Hate mail is better than no mail. So send it.
And by us, I mean Gareth, not me.
Yes. All right, and Joe, we'll be back again next week. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. But until then, farewell, good brothers.
See you later.